First of all, I just want to thank you for coming back. I did my first Facebook Live class on Wednesday night, and the first 6 minutes, I did it on my side. Well, I wasn't on my side, but the video was on its side, and a lot of you stuck with it. You stuck with it till we figured out the technical difficulties, and I just want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for your private messages that you sent me, encouraging me to continue to do something that's not so familiar. And I think this morning, as we move through our slow flow class, I just want to encourage all of you to recognize that there are a lot of things at the moment that we're learning. Some things we want to learn, some things we wish we never knew, but nonetheless, we are moving forward and we're continuing to grow and discover things. So with that, I just invite you to come into a comfortable seated pose. In Sanskrit, the word is sukhasana, or easy sitting pose. And you've got your props, so you are going to want to sit up on something, whether it's a blanket or maybe a pillow, just something to give your hips a little bit of height. And then I'll encourage you to recognize that you're in your basement. One of the things you may have already discovered and learned is that you don't have to wear yoga pants to practice yoga, right? Maybe you're in your pajamas. I hope you're in a place that you're comfortable. So let's start off in Sukhasana, easy sitting pose. We're sitting up on our blankets. We've got our left hand, and we're going to take the right hand and reach for the outside of the right hip. The left fingertips are pointing down, and you'll roll the thigh, like the inseam of your pants, down towards the floor as you lift the outer thigh up. And then you'll come back, and you'll take your right hand and you'll place it along the inseam of your left leg, and you'll roll the thigh inward. And then one of the nice things about being in the privacy of your home, you don't need to be self-conscious about this. You can reach back and grab both your sitting bones. They're back there, you know they are. Pull the sitting bones apart, maybe lean forward a little bit, and sit on your blanket or your block or whatever you propped yourself up, so that you're sitting more on the edge of your sitting bones. You don't want to prop yourself way up like you're sitting up on a throne, because you see how my knees popped up. You want the knees to drop a little bit lower than the hips. And I invite you just to take a full breath in, and if it's comfortable, close your eyes. And begin to bring your awareness to the quality of your breath. Your face softens a little bit. You feel how when you inhale, your spine gets a little bit taller and longer. And when you exhale, feel yourself rooting down into your hips. Just feel that steady rhythm of your breath. And we'll notice a little bit more about how we're sitting. Maybe you'd like to turn your palms to rest facing upward. The back of the hands rest on the legs. If you can slide your elbows back a little bit so that they come over your shoulders, and then pull your shoulders back over your hips, you'll find yourself sitting a little taller. And let your head come to rest at the top of the spine, lengthening the shoulders away from the ears. And now you really feel like you're sitting in a mindful space. You feel the breath rising and falling. We'll play a little bit with the breath as we get started this morning. As you inhale, I'd like you to count to 4. And as you exhale, count to 6. I'm not going to do the counting for you, because I'd like you to set the pace that feels just right for you. And this exercise of taking a little bit longer to let go is really important for all of us right now. We're taking in so much. We need to let some other things go maybe. So we take a full breath in to the count of 4, and we exhale out to the count of 6. And now I'd like you to up it to a full breath in to the count of 6, and an exhale to the count of 9. Really slowing things down. And then let go of any sort of control of the breath. Just notice the breath. As you exhale, drop your chin to your chest. You'll breathe into some space in the back of the neck. And then inhale and lift your chin and point your nose up towards the ceiling. You'll notice there's some space in the front of the neck, but maybe your breath is a little constricted, so you don't want to stop the breath. Keep it moving. And then inhale and come back to center. Drop your right ear to your right shoulder. And you'll breathe into the space along the left side of the neck. And then inhale and lift your head. Drop your left ear to your left shoulder. And you'll notice there's a little more space along the right side of the neck. Inhale and lift the head, bring it back to center. And if it feels good, just keep your eyes closed for this. Otherwise, you want to keep the gaze gently looking down the length of the nose. Now exhale and drop your chin to your chest. And roll your right ear to your right shoulder. Inhale, point your nose up towards the ceiling. Drop the left ear to the left shoulder, and slowly drop the chin to the chest. You just made a circle. Let's do that 2 more times, moving at the pace that you set. What are you learning from this? Maybe there's tension in your neck you didn't even realize you were holding. And once you've come around that 3rd time, inhale and lift your head. Feel your spine lengthen from the tailbone up through the top of the head. And now we'll exhale, drop the chin, and roll the left ear to the left shoulder, reversing the order of our circles 3 times around. Just waking up. What I discovered is on this direction and in this direction, inhale, come back to center. In that direction, that's when my neck made all sorts of sounds. Take a full breath in and just feel the space in the back of the neck. Breathe in and breathe out. Let's bring our hands to heart center. We'll start our practice by setting an intention. What brings you to your mat this morning? It will be different for each of us. And if your only intention is to learn a little something this morning about you, about your practice, about yoga in general, it's a fantastic intention. If you came here with some other intention, please honor that. With our hands resting at heart center, let's bow our heads to our hearts. And then lift the chin and slowly begin to open the eyes. Good morning. Float your fingertips out wide, tenting the fingers. Feel your spine get nice and long. And then with your breath, turn your palms up and overhead. Reach the arms up and overhead. Soften your shoulders from your hip bones up to your armpits. Feel yourself get long. Keeping the shoulders heavy, reach through the fingertips. Exhale, release the fingers. Inhale, float the arms up and overhead. And exhale, release. And one more breath. Reach the arms up and overhead. Soften your shoulders. Decide which hand's your right hand. Take it over to the opposite knee. Take your left hand behind you and tent the fingers. Now inhale long, and from your belly, twist to your left, feeling the head rest at the top of the spine. Inhale, come back up. Exhale, go the other way. Feel the spine lengthen. From your belly, twist to your right. Inhale, come back up. Reach your arms up and overhead. Soften the shoulders. Feel the length in the spine. Take that right hand to the opposite knee. Bring your left fingertips down to the floor. Maybe you need to bring them to a block because we want the spine to stay long. Inhale and twist from the belly to your left. Drop your right ear over to your right shoulder. You'll find some space along the left side of the neck. Inhale, come back up and go the opposite way. Taking the left hand to the opposite knee. Inhale the spine long. This time we'll drop the left ear over to the left shoulder. And you'll notice there's a little more space along the right side of the neck. Inhale, come back up to center. Reach tall and long. Good. Take a full breath in, just enjoying the heart opening. You can feel the tips of your shoulder blades coming towards each other. All right, one more twist like that. We'll take the right hand over to the left knee. Inhale the spine long. Drop your right ear over to your right shoulder. Push down into the left fingertips, and if it feels comfortable, take your right hand and place it just above your left ear, gently guiding the ear away from the left fingertips. Again, we're just breathing into that space of the neck. And then release. Reach the arms up and overhead. And exhale, go the other way. We'll do the same thing on this side. Inhale long. Push down into the fingertips. Drop the left ear to the left shoulder. This could be your bus stop. Maybe you don't want to go to take that left hand and place it above the right ear. Gently guiding the ear away. And breathing. Feeling your breath. Noticing what you're noticing this morning. And then inhale, come back to center, float your arms up and overhead. All right, so now I'd like you to interlace your hands and reach your palms up towards the ceiling and melt your shoulders away from your ears. Good, so as you push up through the palms, again, keep the shoulders heavy, but feel yourself getting taller still, right? And then we'll bend the elbows and bring the hands to the back of the head. Take your thumbs and see if you can find that ridge at the base of the skull. If you were with me on Wednesday night, we found that space with a strap. This time I'd like you to use your thumbs and then bring your elbows in and plug your elbows into your shoulders. And you feel your shoulders come onto your back. So your hand is cradling your head. Use your thumbs and see if you can lift the thumbs up just a little bit and find some space in the back of the neck. You're lifting the hands up. At the same time, you're pushing your head into your hands, finding that space in the back of the neck. Breathing in and breathing out. Just noticing what you're noticing here. Thank you so much for being here this morning. I appreciate it. Good. And then exhale, release your hands. So when I taught earlier this week, my friend Michelle was teasing me because she said, you never use notes when you teach. I've never seen you teach with notes. But you know, I'm kind of learning. Maybe the notes in this situation, typically I like to feed off of what students are showing me in their poses and in their faces and their expressions. And I don't have that so much. So I'm going to try and use this, but maybe I'll go off script even so. So if you are practicing and I am teaching something and you don't feel like you want to stay on my script, I completely understand that. So if you feel like I do something and you want to spend a little more time with it, do that. If you feel like you want to amp up your practice a little bit, you can do that too. So now let's move to a table pose. So you'll move your blankets off of the mat. Again, you'll still face me. I'm going to move around a little bit just so you can see what I'm doing. Probably time to take our socks off too, just so that we can let the sticky mat do what the sticky mat does and gives us a little more stability. All right, so we're going to come into tabletop pose. We've got, see, notes get in the way. All right, we're in tabletop pose. We've got our wrist creases parallel to the front edge of the mat. We've got our knees right underneath our hips. And you can push down into the ball mounts of your index fingers, just enough to get a little lift in the heel of the palm so that you're not putting a ton of weight into that part of the hand. So you've got a nice strong foundation. Let's find a neutral spine here. So we hug the belly in towards the spine, we bring the shoulders onto the back, and we extend through the top of the head. Taking a full breath in and a full breath out. There's our neutral space. Now let's exhale and reach our belly buttons up towards the ceiling. So I say belly button because we want to start right down by the pubic bone and lift, 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 lift from the belly, rounding into the back. Your head will drop, your hips will drop, and then on your in-breath, drop your chest down towards the floor and slowly begin to drop your ribs, and then eventually the belly drops to the floor and you round, or you curve, arch your way into a cow stretch. Come back to a neutral space. Send your hips heavy over your heels. Bring your forehead down either to the floor or to a block. And your belly's lifting up towards your spine, creating some space in the low back. That's a place we like to hold tension. Can you just breathe in and breathe out here? Drag your hands back isometrically. Come back up into tabletop. Exhale into cat. Inhale through to cow. Exhale back to snail. Inhale up to tabletop. Exhale cat. Inhale cow. Exhale snail. Inhale tabletop. 2 more rounds, you set the pace. If you're worried about whether or not you're breathing correctly, remember breathing is correct. And we'll come back to a neutral space, then step your feet forward to your hands, coming into a standing pose on your mat. Good. Hope you're feeling a little, body's a little tuned in here. Look down at your feet. Make sure your feet are about hip distance, which is typically if you put 2 of your fists, well, you only have 2 fists. If you put 2 fists in between your feet, you can bend your knees a lot to see if that's happening. And the toes from the middle of the ankle to the second toe point forward. We'll come into Tadasana to start off. Keep your knees a little bit soft with the palms facing up. Reach the arms up and overhead. Good, and then exhale, take your hands through the center of your heart. And inhale, float on the breath. Reach the arms up and overhead. Back to heart center. How about 3 rounds of this at your pace? Feel what you're feeling. Notice the breath. Good. And the hands come back to heart center. Take that right arm, reach it up towards the ceiling. Soften the shoulder. Anchor into your right foot. Turn your right palm up towards the ceiling. Reach your left hand for the right wrist. As you push into your right foot, go ahead and lean to your left. And feel that space all along the right side of the body. Breathing in and breathing out. Inhale, come back to center. Exhale, go the other way. Nice. Inhale, come back to center. How about 2 rounds of that at your pace? Just breathing it, pushing into that right foot, reaching through the right fingertips. Inhale, coming back, stretching through the left side, opening up that space along the rib cage. Inhale, come back, switch sides. And switch. Beautiful. All right, good. Now, again, you're going to take your hands, interlace the palms or fingertips and reach the palms up towards the ceiling. Keep your shoulders soft. Push down into your feet. So you want the feet to be your foundation. That's what's touching the floor, right? And then bend your elbows and bring your hands behind the back of the head. Once more, you're going to plug the shoulders onto the back. Feel the thumbs on that ridge. As you push your head, resist your hands and lengthen that space into the back of the neck. So it's kind of subtle, but then at the same time, it's not. You feel that length in the space of the back of the neck. We tend to not bring our heads right at the top of the spine, and this is just a way to encourage us to do that. Good, elbows point forward. Good, and shoulders stay strong on the back. Just breathe and notice that space. Nice. Now reach your arms up and overhead. On your exhale, hinge at the hips, bend your knees a whole lot. Bring your palms down to the floor. Your knees are super bent. Hands are a little broader than the shoulders. Step your feet back. You'll be in a plank pose. We're not going to stay here too long, but the plank pose informs us of where we want our hands and our feet as we lift our hips up to the ceiling and push them back to the wall behind us. Feel the shoulders hugging onto the back. Feel your breath. Bring your shoulders forward again, making sure that your shoulders are right over your wrist creases. Your core is engaged. You're nice and strong. Inhale, lift your hips up into downward facing dog again. And then one more time, we'll bring the shoulders forward, plank pose. Inhale, lift your hips back into downward facing dog. Lower down to your knees. Walk your knees to the wide edges of the mat. Bring your big toes so they touch each other. Send your hips back. Come into child's pose. Release the forearms down to the floor. Release your head to the floor. Steady your breath and feel what you're feeling. All right. Make your way up into tabletop again. And step your left foot forward to your left hand. Reach for those blocks. And step your right knee back a little bit. You may want to double your mat over if your knee is tender. I have one knee that's tender. I have the other knee doesn't care. So do what feels comfortable to you. You've got your hands on the blocks, but the blocks aren't really holding you. They're really there as almost like a space maker. Then you'll take your blocks back, but you'll keep your left knee so it's weight bearing over the ankle. You've got that nice angle on the right leg. And then float your arms up and overhead. Soften your shoulders away from the ears and feel your heart lift just a little bit. Release the left fingers to the block. Lean over the right leg. Hug the legs in. Breathe here. And then inhale, release the hands back down to the block. Float the arms up and overhead again. Soften the shoulders. Let's find that stretch in the neck. Take your hands behind the back of the head. Bring the elbows in. Plug the shoulders onto the back. Gently push your head into your hands. Feel the neck get long. And engage the strength of the core. Release your hands. Take the blocks forward. Take the left knee back. Bring the right foot forward. Slide that left knee so that you've got that nice angle. Pad the left knee if you need to. All right, walk the blocks back again. Feel the shoulders come over the hips. Engage the strength of the core. Float the arms up and soften the shoulders away. So the right knee is weight bearing over the ankles. You feel nice and steady. Drop the right hand, get long through the left side, and go ahead and lean over the right side of the body. So we're stretching from the left knee up through the left ribs, keeping that left shoulder anchoring you down, but longer through the left fingertips. Don't forget to breathe. Inhale, release the left hand, float the arms up and overhead, soften the shoulders. Once more, find that space in the back of the neck. Bring the elbows forward, plug the shoulders onto the back, push your head into your hands into your head. Breathing and noticing. And release your hands to the blocks. Walk the blocks forward. Take your right foot back to meet your left. Now you're in a low plank. So you've got the knees down on the floor. You've got your shoulders right over your wrist creases. Notice that your bottom isn't sticking way up in the air or dropping way down towards the floor. You really try to engage the core to hold you. Hug the shoulders onto the back. From there, keeping your elbows right next to your body, exhale and lower your chest halfway to the floor, and then all the way to the floor. Undo the tops of the feet. So the tops of the feet are flat on the floor here, and your hands are right next to your chest. Bring your forehead down to the floor. As you drag your hands back isometrically, go ahead and lift your chest, push into the tops of the feet. Feel the strength of your core engaged. So try not to let your bottom do all the work. Let your belly help lift your chest. And we'll exhale and lower the chin to the floor. And then inhale, drag your hands back, lift your chest again. Push into the tops of the feet, feeling the legs engage. And exhale, lower your chin. One more time, we'll inhale and lift the chest. Keep the head extending from the tailbone. And then lower your forehead to the floor. Turn your toes. Lift up into plank. Lift up into downward facing dog. Pull forward into a plank. Lift back into downward facing dog. Pull forward into plank. Lift back into downward facing dog. Look in between your hands. Walk your feet forward, keeping your knees nice and bent. Bring the feet parallel to one another. Push down into both feet. Inhale and rise up. Reach your arms up and overhead. Soften your shoulders. Good. Exhale. Bring your hands to heart center. Maybe you got a little sweaty with that one. I know I did. All right, so the feet are nice and balanced. So I'm going to offer you an option. If you have a block, sometimes it's nice to put the block in between your thighs. Just keep the legs strong. If you don't have a block, keep your legs strong, okay? Toes are pointing forward. Bring your hands to heart center. Take a full breath in. Feel your heart lifting up towards your thumbs. Feel your head extending. And then bend your knees and send your hips back. Keep the core strong. Keep the shoulders on the back so your head is still lifted. You can think about if you had another set of hands, they'd be on the back of the head so the neck stays strong. And you're just breathing here. You're breathing in, you're breathing out. Your gaze looks down the length of the nose. Utkatasana is the Sanskrit name for this pose if you're learning Sanskrit and yoga. All right, push down into your feet. Push or reach the arms up and overhead. Good. And then on the exhale, hinge at the hips. You've got that block. Okay, this is going to be hilarious. You've got the block in between your feet, or in between your knees. Bring your palms to the floor. See if you can hang on to the block and walk your feet back into a plank pose. Now remember, you're at home. Nobody can see that you're doing it. You're not on the video.
But enjoy that squeeze into the block. You notice when you do that how your core helps you out a lot more than if the legs aren't engaged. And if you don't have a block, use your core too. All right, now inhale, 3 rounds between our down dog and our plank. And if one round feels more authentic to you this morning, then I'll invite you to do 1 round. All right, lower to your knees. Remove the block. I told you that would be fun. All right, step the right foot forward. You've got your blocks there to help you, but again, they're not really holding you. Left leg's at an angle. Bring your hands to your hips. Good, and then float the arms up and overhead. Soften the shoulders. Take your right thumb and put it right into the hip crease of your right hip. Get really long through the left side of your body. See if you can really lengthen through the left side of the body. And then begin to twist from your belly button and take the outside edge of the right arm to the outside of, the outside of the left arm to the outside of the right knee. Right, from your belly, you'll twist and roll that right shoulder over the left, extending long through the back of the head. Let's just breathe here for a moment. And then inhale, float your arms up and overhead. Exhale, release your hands to the blocks. Switch sides. Bring the left foot forward. Bring the right knee back. Take another breath. Inhale, lift up, reach your arms up and overhead. And take that left thumb, place it right into the hip crease. Get long through the right side of your body. And from your belly, you'll twist and place the outside of the right arm on the outside of the left knee. You can float the right fingertips towards the floor, rolling that left shoulder over the right. Taking your gaze so it's gentle and the neck isn't straining in any direction, so it's extending from the tailbone. Can you feel your breath guiding you nice and steady? All right, release, reach the arms up, exhale, take the left knee back to meet the right. Make sure your blocks aren't in your way. You're in a low plank again. Take a breath, keeping your elbows right next to your body. Lower your chest halfway down. And then come all the way down to the floor. Drag your hands back, pull your heart forward. Let's just breathe and notice as you look down the nose, push into the tops of the feet. Those of you who enjoyed the up and down, do the up and down. Those of you who didn't want to do the up and down, it's not cheating to not do something I say. Do what feels right for your body. All right, let's curl the toes under. Inhale, lift up into plank, back into downward facing dog, and we'll just walk the feet forward, keeping the knees bent, pushing into the feet, rising up, reaching the arms up and overhead. Good, hands come back to heart center. Take a breath here. Look down at your feet. Your feet are about hip distance apart. Your hands are at heart center. You'll float your shoulders back over your hips. Make sure your knees are soft. Maybe you want to turn the corners of your mouth up because we are just doing yoga. Breathe in and breathe out. Maybe what you learned this morning was that yoga is a lot of stretching, but there's a lot of strength involved as well. When we practice on our yoga mats the things that we hope we can take off our mats with us. So maybe it's about learning, maybe it's about finding strength, maybe it's about finding softness. Breathing in and breathing out. All right, we're going back into chair pose or Utkatasana. If you have the block and you like the block between your knees, put the block between your thighs. Put the block between your thighs. All right? Bend into the knees, engage the strength of the core. Send your hips back. Beautiful. Now reach your arms up and overhead. Softening the shoulders as you push back into your hips. Squeeze into the strength of the legs so you support the low back with the legs. Take a full breath in. Take your right hand to the right hip crease. Extend long. And then twist from your belly. Take the outside of the left arm to the outside of the right knee. Feel your right shoulder come over your left. And breathe into that length and space. Let your head get really heavy. Let your hips get light. Drop the head. Push down into both feet. Inhale, rise up. Arms come up and overhead. Good. Soften the shoulders. Let's find the twist on the opposite side, Utkatasana. Hugging the belly. Take the left hand into the left hip. Long through the right side. Take the outside of the right arm to the outside of the left knee. So your thumb is there in the hip crease to keep your hips square to the front of the mat. Roll the left shoulder from the belly. Feel your breath, nice and steady. Unlock the jaw. If you've decided the jaw might help you, it won't. Drop your head, lift your hips. Forward fold, keep the knees soft. Push down into your feet. Rise all the way up to stand. Awesome. Exhale, hands to heart center. Once more, bend your knees a lot. Bring your palms to the earth. Step back into a plank pose. Now the awesome thing is when I'm teaching, if I feel like I'm getting a little bit winded, I can walk around and make sure everyone else is doing a really good job. If you're practicing and you're feeling like you're winded and you don't want to do the sequence of the plank to down dog 3 times, come into child's pose. So I'm going to offer this time for you to do what feels good to you. Maybe you want to take a sip of water. All right, let's all meet in that low plank and lower our hearts halfway down, pull through, come up into cobra, tops of the feet flat on the floor. In this variation, go ahead and float your hands off the floor and feel the strength of your core engaged. Palms to the earth. Inhale, lift up into tabletop, bring your right foot forward. Slide that left knee back. Bring low lunge again. Bring your hands up to your hips. Reach your arms up and overhead. Keep your shoulders soft here. All right, one more variation. Remember, hands to the back of the head. We've done that a lot this morning. Bring the shoulders onto the back. Plug the shoulders onto the back. Lengthen through the back of the neck. Keeping that, place your right thumb into the right hip crease. Reach your left arm up to the ceiling, twisting from the belly. Place the outside of the left arm on the outside of the right leg. Bring your palms together in a prayer position, and then bending the elbows, reaching the right shoulder over the left. Turn your fingertips towards your nose. Find some stability in your breath, and you'll find some stability in your pose. Remember, every pose, it's a nice thing to just find where you're just breathing. You're just noticing. All right, release your hands, switch sides. So now we're going to bring the left foot forward. The right knee will be at an angle. Reach the arms up and overhead. Good. Keep that left knee weight bearing over the ankle. Take the hands first. We'll get the neck long. Find that space in the back of the neck. Good. And then release the left thumb to the left hip crease. Reach up through the right side of the body. Good. We've done this, right? We've done a lot of stepping stones to get here. Take the outside of the right arm to the outside of the left knee. Take your palms, bring them together. Bend your elbows and bring your fingertips towards your nose. Roll your left shoulder over your right, extending long through the back of the neck. Right, so if you had an extra set of hands on the back of the head, you keep that neck nice and extending. Release your hands back down to the mat. Good. Step your feet back into plank. Lift up into downward facing dog. Walk your feet forward. Uttanasana, forward fold. Keep the knees super bent. Lift the hips, drop the head, push down, rise up. Reach the arms up and overhead. Good. Exhale your hands to heart center. All right. Next pose we're going to do, again, we're just building, right? That's how we learn. We do a little bit at a time. So we'll come into chair pose again. Legs are strong. Bend the knees. Hug the legs together. Good, and this could be your best stop. Like, Mary, this is enough. It is enough, right? For some of you, you may want to explore. Take the right hand into the right hip crease. Extend long through the left side. Stay heavy in the hips. The heart stays lifted. Twist from the belly. Take the outside of the left arm to the outside of the right leg. Knees should still be pretty parallel to the front of the mat. Bring your hands into prayer position. Keep the neck long. Roll the right shoulder over the left. Fingertips point towards the nose. Drop your head, lift your hips. Push down. Inhale, rise up. Beautiful. Exhale the hands to heart center. When we do it on one side, we're going to do it on the other. So once more, come into chair pose. This, I promise you, is the last chair of the morning. All right. This is a bus stop. You can get off here. If you want to take your left hand to your left hip and reach long through the right side of the body, do that. If you're comfortable, take the outside of the right arm to the outside of the left leg. Hands come into prayer position. Roll the left shoulder over the right as you take your nose towards your fingers. Right about now is probably a good time to turn the corners of your mouth up. We're just doing yoga. Exhale, look down to the floor. Lift your hips, push down into your feet. Inhale, rise up. Reach the arms up and overhead. Exhale, hinge at the hips. Fingertips towards the floor. Come down to your hands and knees. Child's pose. Knees come wide, big toes come together. Surrender into the shape of your child's pose. It's a resting pose. It's a pose that we're really invited to look inward and notice. Notice what you're feeling this morning. Feel your breath rise and fall. All right, walk your hands back and make your way all the way down onto your backs. So you'll come down onto your backs and you'll keep your knees bent and place your hands on your bellies. All right, tuck your shoulders underneath your chest here and feel the rhythm of your breath. Maybe you're breathing a little bit heavier after we work through that sequence. And that's okay. See if you can just even it out. Maybe take in the full breath and let out the full breath. And as you settle down onto the floor with your hands resting on your belly, as you exhale, push your low back down towards the floor. Feel the belly hollow out. And then breathe in and find the natural curve of the low back. And I'll have you do about 5 rounds of this at your pace. Because as much as I know that I encouraged you to use your core to support you, when we were doing chair pose. Chair pose is an awesome core strengthening pose. But sometimes we forget and we use our low back. So these are just some nice low back releases here. Now you've steadied things out. Bring your knees and hug them into your chest. I call this the poor man's massage. And we're just sort of rocking from side to side. If you take your hands right on the outside of your knees and push your knees into your hands and melt your shoulders to the floor, you rock from side to side and you're going to feel it one way on your back. Keeping your head down, you can also pull your knees in towards your armpits and you'll feel it in a different way. There isn't a right or wrong version of this, but for everybody there's one that feels better than the other, and I encourage you to do the one that feels good for you. All right, let's bring our feet back down to the floor. Have your block nearby. With the feet on the floor, tuck your shoulders underneath your chest. Take a breath here. Feel your feet on the floor. Feel your shoulders on the floor. Feel the back of the head on the floor. Root down into those 3 spots and lift your hips up towards the ceiling. Take the block and slide it right underneath the sacrum, that bone at the base of the spine. Your hands can rest on your hip bones. Take a full breath in here and a full exhale, letting go. Bridge pose or Setu Bandha Sarvangasana is the Sanskrit name. Send your left heel straight ahead. Reach your arms up and overhead. Snuggle the shoulders onto the back and feel that stretch across the front of the body. If your low back isn't tender, you can also straighten through the right leg. Coming into really a back bend here. Bend your knees, bring your feet back down to the floor. Find the hands resting next to your hips so the shoulders, the feet, the back of the head are stable on the floor. Lift the hips up. Bring the hips down to the floor. Hug the knees into your chest and rock from side to side. All right, let's do bridge pose once more. Those of you who've been practicing a long time, you may have a different variation that you'd like to do. In the meantime, for the rest of us, remember we're doing a slow flow class. So feet on the floor, shoulders on the floor, head resting on the floor. Lift the hips up. As you push down into the feet, reach for your block. Some of you may have enough space to come up onto your toes, lift the hips a little bit higher, and take the block to its next highest height, resting the block under the sacrum. And then bringing the heels back down to the floor, energetically reach your knees forward, reach your heart back. And again, I'm giving you different variations because you do have options. And if you liked the one I did before, do the one before. Just feel the breath as the heart opens, the front of the body. Feel the strength of the legs. So if you had another block between your legs, you could really feel the engagement of the legs. Sometimes you just get to use your imagination for that. All right, push into your foundation, your feet, your shoulders, the back of your head. Lift your hips up, slide the block out, come all the way down. And once more, hug your knees to your chest. Release your feet to the floor. Place your hands right at the hip bone. So your fingertips are pointing up towards the ceiling. Your wrist creases are down near your hip bones. Push your thighs away from your shoulders and breathe into the length of your spine. Full breath in and a full exhale, letting go. Exploring and finding that nice low back release here.
So we did some nice neck releases today. We did some nice low back strengthening. And then release your hands. Let your arms come out into a gentle T. And then lift your hips and move them to the right side of your mat. Drop your knees over to the left side. Take your gaze over to your right hand and breathe along the right side of your body. Coming into that nice full twist. Nice release. Inhale, come back up to center. Square yourselves up so you're nice and level on your mat again. And now you'll lift your hips and move them to the opposite side. And drop your knees to the right side. Good. Breathe into the space you're finding on the left side of your body. Notice what you're noticing. Inhale, come back to center. Square yourselves up on the mat. Good. Now once more, lift your hips, move them to the right side of the mat, and let your knees drop to the left side of the mat. Good. Now if it feels like you want to go a little bit deeper, you could take your left hand and reach for the top of the right knee and gently guide the right knee away from the right shoulder. You don't have to use your hand for that to happen. You can also just do that kind of energetically. And then inhale and come back to center, and we'll do the same thing in the opposite direction. Lift your hips to the left side, drop your knees to the right. Maybe you want to rest your right hand on the outside of your left knee as you breathe into the space along the left side of your body. Inhale and bring your knees back to center. Hug them in towards your chest and rock from side to side. Good. So it's that poor man's massage. What feels good to you? Bringing your knees into your chest, pushing your knees away from your chest. What did you learn about that this morning? There isn't a right answer. It's just more of an observation. And now we've made it to our last pose, Shavasana. It's a resting pose. Be really mindful in your Shavasana. So if you started off your practice wearing a pair of socks, put some socks on. If you had a sweater, sweatshirt that you had to take off while we were doing the more physical part of the poses, put the sweatshirt back on. You had that blanket you were sitting on. We'll use that to cover ourselves. So lay down on your backs. If your low back is still tender, or that's a spot for you, or you don't like to lay flat on your back, you can always grab a pillow from wherever you're practicing and place your knees across the pillow, just as a little bit of added support. But wherever you settle into your Shavasana, I'd like you to settle in a nice balanced way. So your right hand is resting on the floor with the same degree of release as your left hand. And your feet are falling away from one another. They're a little bit broader than the hips. I heard back from a couple of my friends, Amy and Sue, about at the end of class how they love when I push on their shoulders. So even though nobody's there to do that for you, allow that sensation of releasing the shoulders to the floor. And again, just feel the rhythm of your breath. We'll rest here for a few minutes in Shavasana. This is a really important part of our practice. We did a lot of twisting and turning, and in Shavasana, you find the body able to reset in a nice symmetrical way. Take a full breath in and exhale it out. And just notice what it feels like to be held. To be held by your mat, to be held by your practice. And then taking your time, begin to wiggle your fingers and your toes. Feeling the awareness return back to your body. Bend into your knees, bringing your feet to the floor. And roll and rest on your right side. You can use your arm or your blanket as a pillow. Feel the freedom of the breath moving through the back of your body. It's no longer constricted by the floor. And then taking your time, make your way up into a seated pose. Keep your gaze gently looking down, or even if you want to keep your eyes closed, that's great. Sit up on your prop, maybe your blanket or your blocks. Stack the spine. Some of the things that we worked on today, chair pose and bridge pose, there are benefits that these poses bring to us. And some of the mental benefits of those poses is that they reduce stress, they build focus, they stimulate the mind, they develop willpower. Some of the physical benefits, they lengthen the spine, they open the chest, and they stimulate digestion. So maybe you thought you were just coming to do some yoga poses, and maybe you learned that there is more than just stretching in our yoga practice. I'm always grateful to sit in the seat of teacher. And I am so appreciative to those of you who chose to share your practice here this morning. I'm appreciative that camera was in the right direction the whole time, and I just really want to know how much I love sharing this practice with people. So we'll bring our hands to heart center with love and gratitude, bowing the head to the heart. Namaste. We did it. Happy Saturday. Thank you so much.